Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today, another update on the Bleed Blood Mage or Elemental Bleed Blood Mage. Using the Blood Barb's Ascendancy node, so elemental damage complete, then scaling intelligence with the Hand of Wisdom in action, as well as using the Crown of Ice, so we get spell damage to work for attack damage, therefore we can use a focus, yada yada yada. You guys know the story if you have followed along. This is like the 5th update to the build, and I basically did another complete revamp of the tree. And I made my final decisions on where this build should end up being in the end game. And basically, just PUBing things is one thing, but playing the game is another thing. And once you play the game, you figure out things that you just don't calculate in PUB, just from the quality of life. How does the character feel like? And I'm here to just make a good build instead of just one that just looks good in Path of Building. So if we take a look at yesterday's version, we had here day 7. It was still the version where I said, you know what, pure power, maybe even Mind of a Matter, scaling then into Eldritch Battery, convert all energy shield into mana, and get like a big EHP pool. But realistically, let's say I just assume a number now. I die, let's say 20 times, you know. I swear to God, 19 times is because I get stun locked, okay? Which means either we find a way or solution to just ignore stuns, which is not really the case. But the main reason here is I decided to go for evasion based, because if monsters don't hit you, they cannot stun you. And since I made the swap over to this version over here, what I said, you know what, we're gonna screw the entire top line, and we're gonna go here with increased evasion rating, and just try to get a nice layer of defense with the Wind Dancer, Aura, and stuff like that, and Ghost Shroud, so we can recover ES, and we can actually use ES as another layer of defense. Just made more sense, and the character now feels quite amazing. So the gear overall hasn't really changed too much. I finally got rid of my early unique, the Apron of Emerald. I used that just because bleeding you inflict is aggravated. Now I swapped into this chest. It was like 2 divines, which is an evasion energy shield hybrid chest. And later on, once we've done the next lab, we also gain a bunch of life based on the energy shield. So basically, it's kind of like the same damage as yesterday. The only thing that has changed is the swap over to an ES hybrid version, because now it just feels a lot better, and we can still use the arcane intensity with the spell damage per mana to get some extra damage, because the branching bolt just feels amazing for the mapping aspect. And I also tried out some frenzy stuff. I tried out all kinds of things. Like, my stream is basically just test a bunch of things and then see what feels the best. I also tried out the using Combat Frenzy and use Herald of Thunder with the Neural Overload, as well as Electrocute to sustain Frenzy charges. Was also a way to do that, but now since I swapped over to a different Aura setup, which currently is Wind Dancer, Ghost Dance, as well as Herald of Thunder, I did not have enough Spirit with my current gear to get in the Frenzy charges. Maybe if I get an Amulet with Spirit, or a chest with Spirit, or some other forms of Spirit, maybe I can get in the Frenzy charges as well, and then we just would use the Perpetual charge for Lightning Spear. But it's not really 100% uptime, and quite frankly, now since I pushed into tier 15 maps, I don't even feel that I need that. So I would say we're gonna run a map, Path of Building, as always, in the description below. Let me quickly see. Abyss, we have here a ritual as well as a boss. I guess that should be fine. We run here an 8 modded, or whatever mods this is, corrupted tier 15 map. I was just randomly fishing for a tier 16 because I wanted to know if the vendor actually sells T15 maps if you do a T16, but quite frankly does not. Still, you can buy from the vendor the T14s and convert them into T15s if you ever would run out. This is pretty much of an endgame map. It's not a tower juice map. I'm still finishing my T15s, as you see on the quest over here, completed T15 Nexus, but this should be the last Nexus. So, a map with a shit ton of rare monsters, and I mean, map sustain-wise, I don't feel it's an issue whatsoever. And now we basically could focus more onto damage, defense, whatever we need. But since I swapped into the, evasion rating, it just feels so much smoother to play. And I'm super happy with the build in the current, point of view or whatever. Still, there is another build where I'm like curious in how these work together, because there is a poison variant of Lightning Spear Plate on the Amazon with like accuracy stacking and stuff like that, and they use a specific spear, something Latra, whatever, and the spear basically doesn't really have any damage, but it says with this weapon you can poison with every hit, and poison kind of scales endlessly. So you can get, if you have fast attack speed or hit the monster super often, you basically can get like 100 poison stacks on the enemy without even scaling into poison nodes on your tree. Which, because all these, like, hey, you can have an additional poison on the enemy, usually all these nodes come with a downside, and you completely ignore those downsides. So if I compare it that way, why would I even think or consider why should be a poison version? Maybe, as I said, I have no idea. I'm just thinking and, like, theory crafting in my head why I could see a poison build might be actually better than a bleed build. The main reason is like the gearing curve with this weapon that inflicts the poisons for free, because I do actually have troubles getting 100% bleed chance. So I even have to use runes for my weapon for extra bleed chance. I have to scale or take all the modifiers to chance to bleed. Even on my tree on the bottom side here, I had to spec over here, and now we are barely with 101% over here with, as I said, the rune here with chance to bleed and so on and so forth. So it is quite an investment to get the 100% bleed chance. And if I would think, hey, if I would play with this poison spear, I don't have to worry about chance to poison at all. The gearing would be almost exactly the same as what I'm doing right now. I would just say, I would take Hand of Wisdom in action, I would still go in stacking, and how can we inflict poisons with the with elemental damage? As Blood Mage, we do have Blood Barbs, Ascendancy Nodes to do that. As poison build, you need chaos damage or physical damage to do that. And you would do that either with the gloves that say you can poison with all damage, I think Plague Fingers or whatever they are called, or the even better version, since we want to play Hand of Wisdom in action, we could take the original Sin Ring, which says 100% of your lightning damage convert to chaos damage. So this is basically the same kind of scaling as this build does, where you just stack elemental damage, Hand of Wisdom in action, yada yada yada, to get some nice poison damage. Will it do more damage as a single poison than the bleed? Probably not, but the advantage would be that you can endlessly scale. Another thing, what I'm currently not doing anymore, is I swapped away Herald of Blood, because I think it is kind of like useless. Like, the explosions are not really killing an enemy, and if so, then the enemy would has a bleed on it anyway, so it would die like a split second later anyways, right? So it's nice in a wide open layout to just have like Herald of Blood go off. Just visually it looks pretty cool, but it doesn't really have a use case, so I'm not even playing with that anymore. Other than poison builds that have Herald of Plague, which proliferates poisons, you know, so that could be even crazier clear. But on the other hand, like Lightning Spear clears so freaking insanely well, especially when you play with Frenzied Charges, but I'm even playing with Fork, and later on maybe even additional forks. So clearing wise, I would not say that I have any issues. It's a little bit of an suboptimal map showcase over here, because if this would be a Savannah map or any wide open map, you would see how crazy this proliferates. But as I said, this is like an 8-modded T15 map, just without towers, because I'm still pushing. So now here we have the boss. We still do the emergency reload into Plasma Blast. We walk the 2 meters, so we get the proc of momentum, wait until the boss gets live, and then basically one-tap it. Since we don't have aggravation anymore, I basically release the shot and then curse the enemy. So we release the shot, we curse the enemy, and it's basically just straight up a one-shot. As always, this was like... actually, I got hit. That was unfortunate. But as you see, boss damage, I don't even get to basically curse the enemy, so my bleed deals double damage. That's how much damage we currently have, even though I feel like that the scaling of this can go in like a lot more. And I'm gonna go over the gear in a little bit, where I can tell you guys what I would do next. Because I'm still curious, like, in one hand I'm playing this, my League starter, since like a week straight now, which I usually never do. Like, if you guys follow me for longer, you know exactly that I'm the kind of guy, I don't mind leveling up 5 characters in the first week, if I want to try out things. And currently the only build that really interests me is a poison variant. I don't know why exactly poison. Maybe because it can also proliferate with what is it? Contagion. If you didn't know, in PoE 2, contagion says you proliferate chaos damage over time. You know, and poison is chaos damage over time, so there has been a bunch of like contagion poison builds out there, which could be really fun. Usually played with poison concoction. I think that got like pretty rigged after all. But yeah, we can see how stuff is going to work out. Will I find the last ritual? I don't know. Maybe it's here. Oh, it's here. Because I think I have an audience of the king waiting somewhere. I don't even know if I could refer it right now. But I'm so much more happy now with the revamped tree, because this is like the thing. I'm sitting in the same boat as all of you guys that are hating on PoE 2 based on so many things that went wrong. But honestly, one thing that I kind of felt, especially when I'm reading chat and reading like the experience of other players that are strictly saying like, hey, I league started. Oh shit, dude. I league started and I just didn't had a good time in the campaign and I'm dying non-stop and whatnot. You know, there is just, it's league start, so that means that, what do you say, you don't have currency early on, and if I remember, the 0.1 league start was also very rough. I tried to kill the campaign 1 act boss, and yeah, it took like 5 minutes on my essence drainer, so it wasn't like a pleasant experience either way. But once I had some gear and once I like started to progress the character, it felt better by the day. And this is kind of like the same principle. I kind of feel like that people just want to have like an easy game in terms of where you say, hey, I just log into my character and it will do all content without any effort. Like, I just clear all the screens, I one-shot every boss, and I just want to get divines and start crafting gear or whatever you want to do. I feel like people just don't want to progress anymore. And don't get me wrong, I also see a bunch of problems in the game right now that could be a lot better, but like this build took like 7 days for me to figure out how I'm gonna do it in the best way, and I think I've reached that point right now where I could say now I can farm currency and I know the direction where I should go just based on playing the game and like finding the mistakes that I've made in the early POBs and just trying to figure out the best way to do it, you know? As I said, I feel like people just don't want to progress anymore, because PoE 1 at some point was a shit game as well, you know? So it's just my 2 cents about that. Good, gearing wise, so Crown of Ice with the spell damage applies to attack damage. Now we can take a focus and scale spell damage with that. I did quite an explanation on how this works in yesterday's video, so if you want to check that out, I don't want to repeat the same kind of stuff on every single video, going over and how everything works together. Part of the link is in the description below, as always. And based on the future upgrades, amulets like these are actually pretty good with the projectile skills, but I still think that Astra Mentis could have a big impact. I've done like an end game PUB with like picture perfect gear and stuff like that, and I feel like that Astra Mentis just solves a lot of issues. Why do I say that? First of all, gem requirements. Lightning Spear on level 20 I think needs like 205 dexterity, so I know based on that, I need over 200 dexterity. When I take a look at my Plasma Blast, for example, it needs over 100 strength already, but I want to stack intelligence for my Hand of Wisdom in action and for mana and the spell damage scaling and stuff like that, so I also want to have as much intelligence as possible. Which makes it quite hard. As you see on my stats over here, I have 191 dex, 106 strength, and only 231 intelligence as a form of a instacker, more or less, right? It's not like min-max by any means, like none of my items have intelligence, or, okay, sorry, 10 intelligence on my boots that I'm still having since day 1 of the league, feels like, but it's all like, always a progress where you just map, you get some currency, and then you think about what would be the next best upgrade. For me today, it was replacing the chest, so now I have like more resistance overall. I'm finally res capped. I'm getting on a point where I'm almost chaos res capped as well, so that was pretty good. I don't feel that I need to change my amulet at some point relatively soon, so the next point would be either my dog shit ring in that case, or the boots, like one of these two. Maybe my boots first, because it only has 20% movement speed, right? But back to the topic, you want to get as much intelligence as possible, and that also means that a lot of my points here, the travel nodes, I have to alternate for strength nodes to use my crossbow skills, and then a bunch of dexterity nodes to even use my lightning spear or any dexterity skills. As you see, all of these nodes could be intelligence if I would go for an Astramentis, because with the enhanced reflexes, with the 8% increased dexterity, the proficiency plus the all attributes on polymathy with Astramentis could be enough to fulfill all my dexterity needs and the strength needs. So that means just getting an Astramentis would probably give me like a net over 250 intelligence, which has a massive impact on my flat damage coming from the Hand of Wisdom in action, as well as maybe the Arcane Intensity, because extra 250 mana is quite, like intelligence is like, I think it was like 1 per 2, right? It's like 500 flat mana, so this is something you shouldn't underestimate, and that's why I think even though like an amulet with like +3 projectile skills is an insane amount of scaling, right? But only like for Plasma Blast, because that has like ridiculous damage scaling. But as you saw in the damage, I just like one tap pauses anyway, so that might have an impact if we would say, hey, we want to one-shot T4 bosses at some point, right? Other than that, better items overall would be GG. So a Crown of Ice with 2 sockets, a spear with even more damage, more projectile skills, a nice amount of attack speed just to have like a better feeling while mapping. The 1 to 12 lightning damage per 20 intelligence would be a slight upgrade over the 2 socket Hand of Wisdom, but I still would go for 2 sockets first, just because the 1 to 12 lightning damage is just ridiculously expensive, like 20 divines or something. So having double, like 20 magnitude of bleeding is actually quite insane. Then you could put in here a Rizlada's Coil for insane amounts of damage increase, but in the end of the day, it's a very, very expensive build, and therefore you also need to get a lot of resistance. So I have like a bunch of resistance on my belt now, on my chest, as well as on my focus. So I picked this up for like 2 divines, and I think for 2 divines this is actually crazy good with the spell damage, lightning damage, a somewhat decent amount of ES. So overall the build is just coming very well together, but there is still like I need upgrades on almost every single slot. We are now level 87, as I said, PoE in the description below, revamp the entire tree. What would be the next point? I think I would maybe if I find another way of chance to inflict bleeding, but I don't think so, so we probably have to go this way. I would take these 2 bleeding magnitude nodes, they are insane amount of damage. I still have lasting trauma anointed because of the magnitude of ailments you inflict. The magnitude is insane. Like this node here gives me so much more damage than actually the pure power where it says increased lightning damage per 10 intelligence. And since I passed down here and I do have still Herald of Thunder, the Coming Calamity, it's like 74% increased lightning damage for having these nodes. It is also like really strong. We do start to get a lack of jewel slots because I only have like a few jewels and they're all following the same principle. It is chance to inflict bleeding and the magnitude of bleeding, so I actually get capped over here, so it just feels a lot better. Now we have 122%. Why is that? Didn't I just had 102% before? Where's the extra bleeding? Oh, it is Plasma Blast. This is probably some support gems I actually wanted to check over here. So 101%. But yeah, this is the current state, and I'm, as I said, wondering if I should just sell this gear and just build a poison variant. This is basically the weapon that I was talking before with the poison, which puts a lot less pressure on the investment, just because this is your best in slot weapon and it costs like, I don't know, like 5 exalts or something. So I could sell my gear and put up a poison variant as a huntress and see how that compares compared to the bleed variant. But in the worst case scenario, it's worse than the bleed variant, and then I sold all my gear for the bleed variant, right? I could just put it back together, but I don't want to like invest like, I don't know, like 1 divine in my entire poison build while I spend like, I don't know, like 8-9 divines on my bleed variant. It's just not fair to compare in that way, right? On top of that, PoEing is like the easiest way to do that, but there is still lots of things that are just simply not working. For example, Lightning Rod is not working, or I think here, Poison, I started to do a PoE for the Poison build, right? even the weapon is not working. It doesn't count for poisoning the enemies. It doesn't count anything. So it's kind of hard to put this together, right? So here, this helm with tailwind doesn't have tailwind because in PoE it doesn't work. So it's more like just load it up, level it, and see how this one plays like and compares like to the Bleed variant. But I still wanted to do another update just so you see what was the end version that I played for this Bleed variant of the Blood Mage. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.